Man, the Pluto podcast show, banned, restricted, rewarded, and honored as top creator for the same show on the same day. Wow, that's nice.
How do we fix it?
We're gonna just make some simple adjustments. Let's take out all the profanity, and now, instead of saying,
Fuck, I need a cigarette.
it'll sound more like,
Man, I need a cigarette.
this to make the show suitable for TikTok.
Okay.
With that being said, let the broadcast resume. Because we're a million miles away. We're broadcasting from a cold world, the world of the most violent convicts, killers, kidnappers, armed robbers.
Straight up.
Pluto, the ice planet, the ice cold world of incarceration. The stories in Pluto are written in our own words. We're a million miles away from your world. Out here, our world is always cold.
Like Pluto. Like a million.
Yeah, like a million. Pluto,
A cold world.
prison stories, and nightmare convicts.
Now before we go inside the courtroom, I need everyone quiet.
The court deputy said. Then the deputy led us to a 3-seat booth, the same booth where the jury sat during a trial.
Have a seat.
The deputy said. As the judge went through a docket, the crimes of every inmate was read out loud.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
stand.
Okay. Once again, I was offered.
15 years.
I waived, but the judge informed me that if I went to trial and lost, I would have to do
Mandatory life sentence.
I waived twice already. I had one waive left. If my attorney and the DA couldn't agree upon anything by my next court date, then a trial will be set. There were 14 inmates out of the 20 facing a life sentence. No one was sentenced this day. We were still all fighting for the best deal.
The shortest time.
Quickly, after court, we were then all ushered back to David L. Moss, unshackled and sent back to our pod. The pod door is mostly made out of glass, so everyone can see you when you step on the pod coming in, including
Nasty Fred.
Hey man,
what, Fred?
do you have some of those orange peelings?
I might. Since we didn't have tobacco, lettuce,
Orange peelings.
and spinach was dried out and smoked. And Nasty Fred liked to smoke all the time. Anything. He kept a light. A lighter in here is 2 batteries, a thin piece of wire. The wire touches the batteries at positive end and a negative end, and it makes the little wire glow, like a burner on the stove. Once I had taken my first puff, Nasty Fred watched me. He asked me.
How was it?
It was okay.
Okay, let me hit it.
Okay, here you go.
Come on, man. Let me hit it.
He would sweat for absolutely no reason at all. And he would always ask me
Got any orange peelings?
every day, every time I saw him. As we sat inside the cell smoking vegetables, he peered out the window. He looked down at 2 young inmates, pointed at him, and he said,
Do you see them right there?
I said, yeah.
I'ma tell you what he did.
Who?
The cross-sided one.
Okay. As I sat there, Nasty Fred continued to puff his orange pellets, and then he went into a dark story. It started like this.
One day,
Jamal had awoken to one thing on his mind. He was tired of being hungry
panhandling
in front of a local convenience store and being shooed away by the owner all the time. At times, even water was scarce. For the young kid, he had a cocked eye and he wore 2 braids all the time. But on this morning, he awoken with a plan. Today was his last day
being broke.
There's nothing around in the north side of Tulsa for teenagers to do. Nothing. Completely
Desolate.
His plan was to call a new
Connect.
that he had met the previous day. This
Connection.
was a street pharmacist. The thought of spending money to make a little bit more money was just what Jamal needed. He was buying a new month's supply of
Oxycodone.
That's a brand new prescription.
Yeah. The deal was going to be did later on that evening because
The Connect
had to get off work first. So Jamal had all day, probably, hopefully, add a little bit more money to a small stash. Maybe
get a better deal.
he pondered about this all day.
Man, I want it all.
By that evening, Jamal had somehow figured out a way to get even more pills
From the connection.
once they had arrived. I mean, he was street smart. Anxiously, he called his connect and planned to meet the pharmacist at the local park.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the dealer was on his way. He was glad at the fact to be able to sell a full prescription, and so was his wife. She wanted to tag along. Shortly after, the
Connect
pulled into the parking lot of the small local park. Noticing Jamal, he hand signaled.
Get in.
Jamal hopped into the back seat of the car. The dealer pulled out his prescription, still in the bag, and said,
They all hurt. Okay.
Jamal replied, reaching for his money, the sum of $2,000. Jamal then switched gears. He pulled out a small
firearm
and said,
Give me everything.
frantically, the couple started handing Jamal everything of value that they possessed after Jamal had gotten all of what he could from the married couple. Their money, jewelry, prescriptions,
phones.
Jamal looked around the park to see if there was any suspicious onlookers, but found none. Then, right before he fled the scene, for absolutely
No reason.
at all, he put the firearm to the backs of their heads,
And fired.
killing them both. The married couple was badly behind on utility bills. With that $2,000 Jamal had claimed to have, it would have paid off the cutoff notices the couple was facing.
You gonna eat those green beans?
Jamal asked me one day. No, this is Pluto.